Chris and I backpack all over the world for months at a time. Each place we travel to has its own characteristics and safety considerations. When we originally planned this video, we had 10 things on our list. But there are so many things that we've learned over the years that our list grew to 20.
So here are 20 things we do to stay safe in large cities like Mexico City, where we're currently here for a month.
Number 1. Always look at the best way to get around your city before you leave, especially how you're going to get from the airport to your accommodation.
See if taking a bus is a safe option and know if taxis are trustworthy and where you can catch them. Look to see if ride shares like Uber and Lyft are available and safe. Here in Mexico City, we find that taking Ubers everywhere, including from the airport, is the best option for safety. And on the subject of transportation, here's tip number 2.
If you're in a vehicle such as a taxi or a rideshare, be very careful if you have your windows down. You don't want to lose your phone when a motorcyclist passes your car when you're stopped at a light.
And continuing on the subject of transportation, tip number 3. Download local offline maps in Google Maps before you leave, in case you're not able to get a SIM card or connect to the internet right away when you arrive.
Safety tip number 4. Watch for tripping and falling hazards. Here in Mexico City, the sidewalks are often uneven and balcony railings may be lower than what you're used to. I managed to trip and fall on a run, and did this to my chin. In Costa Rica, there were missing manhole covers with massive drops.
Massive drops. Massive drops.
Now, obviously, you can trip and fall anywhere in the world, but I find that when you're traveling and you're less familiar with your location, you're more at risk for falling.
Tip number 5. Look out for hanging wires. In cities like Mexico City, many of the wires are overhead instead of buried underground, and sometimes they hang into the street.
I'm pretty sure these wires are harmless, but I definitely don't want to test my theory by touching one.
Safety tip number 6. Find out as much as you can about your destination. What areas are safe? What areas are more dangerous, and what to look out for. We find that joining local Facebook groups and subreddits to be really helpful for this.
And those groups are also super helpful for finding fun things to do when you're there. We visited Tepoztlan, attended a local trivia night, and found a delicious bakery, all because of those groups.
Number 7. Keep copies of your passports, credit cards, and ID in a secure part of the cloud, and leave physical copies with someone you trust. That way, if you lose something, you can report it lost and cancel it more easily.
And while you're at it, follow safety tip number 8. Leave your detailed itinerary with a few people you trust and make sure they know to expect regular check-ins from you. Some of our friends and family were the lucky recipients of a very long itinerary from us for this 5-month trip, including all of our flight details and accommodation locations. And we update them as plans evolve too. And on the topic of family and friends, on to tip number 9.
Memorize the phone number of someone back home, so you can call them if you lose your phone and everything else.
And remember to think about that phone number often. Otherwise, if you're like me, you'll forget about that phone number the next day.
Number 10. Before you leave for your destination, take out some of the local currency. That way you'll have some money when you land, should you need cash right away, or in case your credit card doesn't work.
Now, we don't travel with a ton of cash, and we use ATMs when we need them.
But I find that having $200 to $400 in small bills split up in secure pockets between us to be the best way to go.
And on the subject of money, number 11. When out exploring, only carry the bare minimum you need and keep it in a secure front interior pocket. I like to use the front interior pocket of my jean jacket.
And continuing our travel safety tips on money, number 12.
Keep some of your cash in a separate, easy-to-reach place so you can use it when you're buying something small. Here in Mexico City, I keep a few pesos in a different pocket so I can pull out that money when I'm buying something at a market without having to pull out the rest of my bills. For example, I might have about $40 or $50 on me, but I keep 5 or 10 of those dollars in a separate pocket.
Safety tip number 13. If you're taking a bus, try to bring your belongings on the bus with you. Always keep your most important belongings with you in your lap.
Number 14. Be aware of how police and law enforcement work in the area you're visiting and if they might be looking for bribes. Safety tip number 15. Keep your head up and look around you. This helps reduce your risk of tripping. Also, car, bus, and bike lanes might not be moving in the direction you think they are. So always look both ways when crossing a lane of traffic, as a vehicle might be coming in a different direction from what you expect.
Here in Mexico City, some of the bike and bus lanes go in the opposite direction of the cars.
Also, watch out for motorbikes that are lane splitting. A car may have stopped to let you go by, but a motorbike might be coming down between the two stopped car lanes.
Tip number 16. Be aware of your surroundings when pulling out your phone or taking photos. Don't start walking down the street looking down at your phone.
And related to that, here's tip number 17. Be very careful of people who try and help you when you're lost or when you're looking for something. They might be trying to distract you.
Different cities have their own groups that come up with innovative scams to distract you while pickpockets take your belongings. The Facebook groups and subreddits can help make you aware of what these are. So to avoid looking like easy targets, we try to look up where we're going ahead of time. And if we do need to look something up on our phones while we're out, only one of us looks at our phone while the other one keeps an eye out.
We're very careful about watching street performers and accepting help, even though sometimes it feels a little bit mean because the person might genuinely be trying to help us. On to tip number 18. Look up the travel requirements and restrictions put out by your home country. Most countries, including Canada, the US, the UK, and Australia, all have websites that put out travel advisories for pretty much every country in the world. They advise on safety, but also on entry and exit requirements, health considerations, laws and culture including driving, money, and climate and natural disasters. The site also provides useful phone numbers such as the ones to the embassy.
Tip number 19. Buy health and travel insurance. Be aware that your travel insurance may not be valid in places where your country has issued a higher level travel warning. For example, at the time of this video, the Canadian government has an avoid non-essential travel warning to certain areas of Morelos State in Mexico. Since Tepoztlan, our destination for our overnight trip, is in Morelos, we made sure we weren't going to be going through those areas before getting on the bus out of Mexico City.
And lastly, make sure your health insurance covers you for all the activities you plan on doing. Some insurance doesn't cover you for higher risk activities like high altitude hiking or scuba diving.
And that's our list of things we do to try to be a bit safer when we travel to big cities like Mexico City. What are some of the things that you do to stay safer when you travel? Please let us know in the comments.